Good morning, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the last day of our 2021 annual conference. As president and on behalf of New England Water and Environment Association, I welcome and thank you for attending. Today, our keynote address will be by Jamie Eichenberger, President-elect for WEF. I personally have known Jamie for many years, as we both served in the House of Delegates together. I am excited for you to hear Jamie today, as he too will highlight topics related to our theme for this past year of Advocate, Act, and Be the Change. Jamie is an Associate Vice President with HDR in Denver, Colorado, and has been an active WEF member since college. He has previously served as past president of the Rocky Mountain Water Environment Association, Speaker of the House of Delegates, and WEF Treasurer. Jamie lives in Golden, Colorado with his wife, Julia, just down the road from where they met in college at the Colorado School of Mines. When not working or traveling, they get up into the mountains whenever possible to go backpacking, skiing, or climbing. I am happy now to turn this over to Jamie Eichenberger.
Good morning, everyone. Thank you for joining today's keynote address. I'm Jamie Eichenberger, WEF President-elect, and I'm delighted to be talking to you today about some updates from the Water Environment Federation and how WEF and NEWEA are working together to support our community of empowered water professionals. First, I just want to say how much I've been looking forward to this event. Many years ago now, during my first year as WEF Delegate-elect, Delegate at Large, I attended a WEF Max hosted by NEWEA in Providence, Rhode Island. At the time, I was a young professional, I didn't know anyone, and was a little nervous about attending my first official WEF event. But in true New England style, I was quickly taken in and made to feel right at home. Since that time, NEWEA has always had kind of a special place in my heart. And if it weren't for the support of folks in your community like Jen Lachmayr, Howard Carter, and Ed McCormick, among many others, I certainly wouldn't be where I am and here speaking with you today. Now, unfortunately, the coronavirus pandemic has prevented us from meeting in person. However, I've been blown away by how your NEWEA staff and volunteers were able to pivot to this new format and provide such a strong technical program and engaging platform for us to connect virtually over the last 2 weeks. As devastating as the pandemic has been, it has provided us with an opportunity to think outside the box in terms of how we connect with each other. While I don't think the virtual events will ever fully replace in-person meetings, they do allow us to extend our reach to communities who may not have otherwise been able to attend. At WEF Tech Connect back in October, we heard from operators, young professionals, and a number of our global attendees that they were really excited about the virtual program. They may not have been able to attend if it hadn't been for the virtual format, and allowed us to reach out to some groups that we normally don't get to talk to. I think this is a real opportunity for us to grow our membership and increase our impact within the water community moving forward. Not a replacement of what we were doing before, but something we can do in addition to reach a much wider audience. Now, WEF started down this path already. We've been increasing our digital programming and virtual learning over the last year, and we've provided a new platform for all of our content through Access Water. This is an on-demand library that already has more than 20,000 pieces of content and continually growing. As we move past this current COVID-19 crisis, we're going to need to continue to provide a mix of both in-person and virtual learning opportunities to extend our reach and better serve the water community wherever they may be. Platforms like Access Water, other opportunities through the NEWEA website, WEF's website, webinars, those sorts of things are going to be really important for us moving forward. Now, another positive impact from the pandemic has been a recognition of the importance of water and sanitation. We all know it was really important for us to wash our hands, do all the things we know we should have been doing anyway, but especially in a pandemic situation, it really highlighted just how critical the water workforce is. During some of the early lockdowns, I know we saw where water workers were designated as essential. We are towards the front of the line in terms of vaccination priority. So it's really elevated us as a profession and letting people know that we really are those first line responders getting out there. But we do still have a ways to go. A recent survey showed that more than a third of people have no idea where their drinking water comes from. 2/3 don't know what happens when they flush the toilet. And all but a few are unaware of any local investment in their water infrastructure. Now, the good news is Most people, a majority, feel that they're getting good value for their water and wastewater services, and that it's generally in good condition. They don't have a lot of complaints about it. Unfortunately, only about 16% believe that the need to invest in water infrastructure is particularly urgent. Now, in part, this is a good thing. It's a testament to the great work that you all do every day. We're so reliable that people honestly can't imagine what their life would be like without water or sewer. We're out of sight, we're out of mind. This reminds me of a news report I saw in the Denver area back in 2013. We had a 1,000-year storm event that flooded a number of our communities. And one, the town of Lyons, literally had its water and wastewater infrastructure washed downstream. They had a gentleman on the news that was being interviewed, and something that always stuck with me was he said, having to boil our water is a real inconvenience, but not being able to flush the toilet when we have a family of 4 at home is an unmitigated disaster. It's those sorts of things, these very rare, 1,000-year events that really take, it takes that level of interruption to service to make people really value what we do on a day in, day out basis. But some of this is our fault. We aren't necessarily the best, the best messengers for this. We tend to be quiet. We have a historical feeling that no news is good news, and that we want to stay out of the public eye. Now, thankfully, this has been changing over the last few years, but it's something we need to continue to focus on. So how can we get the general public to recognize the importance and need of water infrastructure? Well, thankfully, we have a number of tools already available to us to help spread the word. First and foremost, it's community engagement. Thoughtful, meaningful engagement creates authentic communication with our customers and ratepayers that mean that they're going to be there when we need them to respond to a call to action. It helps us increase public awareness, educate them about what's going on in their communities, and it puts us in control of the image and the messaging while humanizing our utilities so that the public can take part in conversations naturally. We can build trust with them when events do arise. This in turn enables pathways to community benefits such as resource recovery, water reuse, green infrastructure, and provides opportunities to amplify that link between investing in water infrastructure and job creation, economic support, and career opportunities. Without strong water and sewer, we can't have any economic growth. While community engagement needs to be an ongoing program, there are some great jumping off points, some key days and events that we can rally around as kind of a focus for some of our engagement opportunities. These may include World Water Day, Earth Day, Imagine a Day Without Water, World Toilet Day, a personal favorite of mine, and Infrastructure Week. To help with these, WEF has developed some toolkits. Waterpalooza, if anyone's had the opportunity to come to WEF Tech early, even the day before our service project, the students and young professionals get together and put on this Waterpalooza event. This is an educational event aimed at children, school-age children coming in and learning about water. It's hands-on, it's interactive, and it really helps us kind of hook them while they're young and get them interested in the water community. These types of toolkits are available to any WEF member, all of our member associations. So if you or your utility is looking for a way to engage your community, this is a great resource to look at. And WEF's not alone. Our member associations, including NEWEA, have developed a number of resources as well. I'd recommend you reach out for the House of Delegates to see what other member associations have been doing. But NEWEA has their school kit. And I was looking at this website earlier this week, and I was really blown away by the fact they've organized their materials in everything from kind of the K through 5 range all the way up to high school students. So you get that full range if you want to go volunteer in your local schools and communities. Other resources include WEF's Water's Worth It campaign. We have a variety of posters, t-shirts, and other materials that can help raise the awareness of the value of water. Some of these are around everything from your passion to your health. We have these available in multiple languages, French, English, and Spanish, to really help reach different parts of your community across the United States, Canada, and other parts of the world. We know that NEWEA also has their Water for Life ad campaign. I did notice there's a call for stories out right now. So this is another great way to share about how water's impacted your life. Maybe it's a career, maybe it's the way it got you through college, or even just a canoe trip or spending your time out on the water. And then, of course, our Brave Blue World documentary. For those of you who haven't had an opportunity to see this documentary yet, strongly encourage you to go see it for yourself and use it as an outreach and messaging tool in your communities. Brave Blue World provides a positive outlook into how we are solving today's water challenges through innovations in nutrient and energy recovery, water reuse, and digitization of the water infrastructure. Right now, it's available on Netflix, so it's an easy thing to share with friends and family. I know I have sent it to all mine and made them watch it with me multiple times. But WEF has also developed a toolkit to allow member associations to organize their own screenings of the film with the public. We realize right now getting everybody together into a theater can be a bit of a challenge, but we have done some virtual viewings and had some roundtable discussions and other kind of live interactive events along with it, where people can ask questions and get better insight into what we do. One of the things I really like about this is that while a number of documentaries seem to be a little doom and gloom, there's a crisis pending, all these things, Brave Blue World really focuses on the positive things that we're doing in the water industry to face these challenges and help make sure we have a resilient water infrastructure into the future. While public engagement is critical, another area we really need to focus on is targeted advocacy. I've had the privilege to attend WEF's annual fly-in for many years now, and I know this is something NEWEA takes very seriously. You guys are a model for other member associations about how to organize and make the most of visits with your members of Congress, but it is really important that we keep regular, consistent communication with them so we become that go-to resource when any questions come up about water issues, the need for infrastructure funding, and that sort of thing. Now, hopefully you were all able to attend, but in 2020, we did have a virtual event. We're going to have a virtual event again in 2021. They'll be running from April 25th to May 1st. And while I think we lose some of the impact with just having the massive people up on the Hill when we're able to have the in-person event, again, one of the bright sides that we saw was we were able to get more than 1,100 attendees. That's 3 to 4 times the number of people we normally get in person. And it just really great to hear from all those advocacy professionals, utility experts, even a number of YPs were able to get involved and work on this. We were able to, even with the virtual format, organize more than 270 congressional visits and work with a number of partnering organizations to really amplify the impact. However, meeting with your elected officials just once a year is not enough. Making sure to take the time to meet with them throughout the year is important to positioning ourselves as the go-to resource when they have questions about water-related issues, infrastructure funding, and other key items. Schedule a meeting when your congressmen are back home during a congressional recess. Meet with their staff throughout the year. Even if you can't meet with the Congress member themselves, it's really great to be able to meet with their staff, develop those relationships, so you're the one that they call when they do have those questions come up. WEF staff and our Government Affairs Committee can help with messaging and provide some guidance on how to set up these meetings if needed. As always, we're here to help, but this is one of the most consistent messages I've heard when I've met with my congressional delegation, is that we love hearing from you guys. It's great to see you every April. However, we wait 12 months before we see you again. It'd be really nice to be able to hear from you all throughout the year. It doesn't have to be every month, but maybe quarterly, even just maybe once in the spring, once in the fall, getting that, not just the fly-in, but maybe a drive-in experience to go meet with them when they are back home. But advocacy goes beyond any one specific event. Don't discount the power that you have as an individual voter. I encourage everyone listening to sign up to be a water advocate. This is a grassroots effort led by WEF that provides you with important information on upcoming legislation and policy and provides templates and tools to send letters and provide input directly to your elected officials. I personally responded to several of these calls to action over the past year on a range of issues, including PFAS and infrastructure funding. Submitting letters to my congressman took me less than 2 minutes. And in case you don't think you have an impact, I got to say, we've been really successful this year. We were able to maintain the funding levels for the SRF program in spite of all the economic troubles we've seen over the past year. We actually increased WIFIA funding, and we were able to triple the funding that EPA Water Workforce Development Grant Program has. So your voice does matter. Make sure that it's heard. This Water Advocate program is a really easy way to do it. It sends you email alerts when something needs your action, and with a couple clicks of a button, it can tell you who your congressman is, pre-address the letter, and get it sent off so you can make that voice heard. Another area I want to touch on around public outreach and advocacy is residuals and biosolids. We've been putting a lot of effort over this in the last couple of years. And frankly, one thing we realize is that over the past decade or so, we've seen kind of a steady erosion in the focus and investment on this important issue. We've seen it from EPA. I hate to admit it, but I think WEF and the wastewater community as a whole took its eye off the ball a little bit. We'd had so many great successes. We thought we had it taken care of, and then PFAS hit us. And we saw a renewed oversight and skepticism around the safety of biosolids, and it's still causing some very real issues that we're dealing with. But the issues go well beyond just PFAS. This is the issue of the moment, but we imagine that we may see other constituents of emerging concern coming out that may have the same level of scrutiny. So we need to provide a higher level of investment and oversight in this. Recognizing that, back in November of 2019, WEF hosted a convening of biosolids experts from around the country to discuss what needs to be done to promote the beneficial reuse of biosolids and promote science-based policymaking around it. A list of action items came out of that meeting, including the need for coordinated plans for biosolids research and communication, as well as investing in a full-time biosolids champion. This champion would lead a steering committee with representatives from WEF, NEWEA, Water Research Foundation, other regional organizations such as NEWEA, and help to coordinate those local regional efforts across the country to make some real progress on this issue. I'm pleased to announce that we've been able to make some real progress on this. Last February, we were able to hold a meeting where we set the biosolids research priorities. That was hosted by Water Research Foundation, and they are currently working on implementation of that plan. I'm also happy to say that our November board meeting, the WEF board approved creation of a biosolids champion position. This is a new position that's going to have a national level of recognition and prestige and really help us coordinate these efforts. We'll have that steering committee with regional organizations, making sure that we're getting the best and the brightest around, but have someone who is dedicated to bringing forth the messaging, helping to coordinate the research, and helping to make sure that we're getting the right policies in place across the country so we can continue to promote the beneficial reuse of residuals and biosolids. Right now, we've advertised the position. We're planning on having interviews this month, so please keep an eye out for this important announcement in the coming weeks of who our new biosolids champion is going to be. I mentioned one of our key successes coming out of advocacy was around the EPA Water Workforce Development Grant Program. No small part of that is because of the challenges that we know we have around the water workforce. We recognize that workforce development is going to be one of our primary challenges in industry in the coming years. As many of you know, in the last 10 years, we've seen approximately 40% of our water workforce retire, and that trend is expected to continue over the next 10 years. We've seen staffing vacancies as high as 50% in some cases, and that's coupled with a very tight job market, at least pre-COVID, and it's made it exceedingly difficult to fill these positions with qualified candidates. We need to take some action around this and make sure that we're continuing to provide a water workforce that will lead us into the future. But instead of approaching this only as a problem to be solved, we should really view it as a golden opportunity to equip these new professionals with the skills and knowledge to advance the cutting edge and ever-evolving nature of a career in water. In addition, this gives us an opportunity to really address some of the diversity, equity, and inclusion issues that we've seen in the water workforce. And I'll talk about that a little later in my presentation here. Now, again, thankfully, there are a number of resources available to help overcome these challenges. First, we need to up our recruiting. WEF has partnered with AWWA to develop and maintain the Work for Water website, which provides a wealth of information on different career opportunities for prospective employees, as well as best practice resources for utilities to implement. This is really meant to be a clearinghouse to bring programs that work, so each utility doesn't have to reinvent the wheel from themselves. They can borrow borrow and steal from other utilities that have programs that have been effective to be able to do that, and also provide a resource for people who are interested in careers to see the whole breadth of career opportunities are available within the water sector. We also have our student design competition, and this is a really great way to introduce college students to the water industry. Provides winners from each member association the opportunity to attend WEFTEC and see what we're all about. I will say personally, I have hired several students who participate in this program, and hands down, they're some of the smartest, most motivated engineers I've had the pleasure to work with. Now, a lot of the people that participate in this may already be in water programs, but a lot of folks that we've seen, maybe through a senior design class or something like that, can get involved in this program, and where we may have otherwise lost them to structural engineering or some other civil engineering type field, we can really pull them into the water sector and again, help fill that pipeline for the next generation of water professionals. Operators. We have a number of operator resources as well. Our on-demand wastewater library is ever growing, and right now we have dozens of these OWLs that are fact sheets and kind of operating procedures for multiple areas of wastewater treatment plant operation. We also have the Operations Challenge. I know many of you are familiar with this, but it's really kind of a wastewater Olympics. It gives operators an opportunity to showcase their skills and just how much skill it takes to really operate a facility. But it also helps develop strong leadership and communication skills. And one of the things I've observed after working with this program for a number of years is just how many people that participate in Operations Challenge teams quickly become the supervisors, even utility managers as they continue their careers. It's a great career development tool, and it's a nice showcase too to be able to help bring people in. In addition to these resources, over the last several years, we've been investing heavily in expanding our training materials for wastewater operators. A couple of years ago, we were able to release Wastewater Treatment Fundamentals 1 on liquid treatment. This is now available in English and Spanish. And later this year, right now scheduled for April, we'll have Wastewater Treatment Fundamentals 2, focusing on solids treatment. These manuals are a much needed update to some of the standard training manuals that have been available in the marketplace. Those old manuals hadn't been updated in many years, and frankly, they just weren't keeping up with the incredible rate of change we've seen as a result of innovation in the water sector. These new manuals are great. They're highly visual. They use simplified language to explain complex concepts and really help prepare operators to either get their first license or progress as their career advances. Now, for the next generation of leaders, we also have the Water Leadership Institute. This isn't so much as of a recruitment tool as an advancement tool, but the Water Leadership Institute is aimed at educating and training emerging leaders and providing them with opportunities to build strong, lasting relationships within the water sector. It's an intensive program over the course of a year that allows participants to engage in management training and leadership development through a blended learning approach. This includes examining complex challenges facing the water and wastewater industries and networking with both public and private sector practitioners. I participated in the Water Leadership Institute program as part of its inaugural class back in 2012, and I can attest to the value of the program. If you or one of your staff is looking to move into a leadership or management position, I cannot recommend participating in this program enough. It really provides a lot of those soft skills that are required to be able to move from a doer to a manager, and helps you kind of manage some of those issues too, with working with a bunch of people who are your peer group and friends, and now potentially being in a role where you may have some authority over them. They can make that a little tricky. Those soft skills, as we all know, are every bit as important as the technical background, and this program does a really good job of helping to introduce folks to that. And then finally, I want to talk about diversity, equity, and inclusion. Often we talk about this as a workforce issue, but I want to step away from just as workforce impacts for a moment and talk about the water industry as a whole. The water industry serves communities across the country, and as an industry, we should reflect those communities that we serve. However, right now we're not doing that. A recent study by the Brookings Institute shows that as a whole, our industry is overwhelmingly old, white, and male. We have a real need to start bringing in younger folks, a more diverse group of people from our communities, and more women into the water workforce. And this isn't just going to happen on its own. WEF Vice President Ifeanyi Venner made a statement a while back that has really stuck with me. And it's, if you keep fishing in the same pond, you're going to keep getting the same fish. And I think this is something that we have a tendency to do. I graduated from Colorado School of Mines. I'll be honest, that is the first place I go when I'm looking for new people to hire. But that means we're going to keep getting people that look like me into the industry. We need to broaden that net, start looking at other places, and be very intentional about how we're recruiting people into our industry. So how do we do that? Well, we need to reach out to these underrepresented groups and make sure that we're not just showing them, telling them that, hey, we're welcoming, we have a place for you here, the door's open. But we need to be stepping through that door and actively working at bringing them inside, making sure that they're feeling at home. They have a place with us in this important industry. WEF feels very strongly about this. The need to increase diversity and inclusion within the water sector was our top priority when we did our last update to our strategic plan. You can see here it shows up in our critical objectives and strategic goals. And frankly, it goes across everything we're trying to do, from growing our membership to creating the water workforce as a future, to making sure we're providing a diverse range of technical content for people, for our members and folks within the water workforce. One of our most visible efforts over the last couple of years has been our Inflow program. Inflow stands for Introducing Future Leaders to Opportunities in Water, and this program makes opportunities in the water sector real, exciting, and attainable to students from underserved and underrepresented groups. Since its launch in 2018, WEF has expanded the program into 2 tracks, which allows us a broader range of young people looking for viable career paths. The first track is for university students, while the second track, named Career Tech, targets non-college bound high school students and young adults with an interest in trades training, including a focus in jobs related to plant operations and maintenance. Inflow students are recognized each year at WEF Tech, and in 2019, several generous corporate sponsors helped to provide full scholarships to 41 students from the University of Alaska Anchorage, Florida A&M, Florida International, the University of Hawaii, Howard University, and the University of South Florida. These students were able to come, see all that we have to offer. And I've got to tell you, it was really rewarding and encouraging to see just how excited they got about it. Many of these students had never really thought about a career in water beforehand, but the opportunity to attend WEF Tech really allowed them to get a better understanding of the scope and depth of water-related careers. Maybe most importantly, as part of this program, we arrange one-on-one meetings between the students and prospective employers, showing them that not only may it be a cool career, but it's something that they can actually get hired and find a lifelong career path in. Many of these program participants are now very engaged with WEF activities and have taken leadership positions on WEF committees and are progressing to leadership roles in their organizations. We've also seen a number of these students start up new student chapters at these universities, which again will help us fill this pipeline. These are the types of activities we need to be continuing to do. Be very intentional about where we're going to help recruit in our next generation of the water workforce to make sure that we are diverse and inclusive. But Inflow isn't all we're doing. It was just a start. And WEF appointed a diversity, equity, and inclusion task force to investigate what other actions WEF can be taking to best focus our efforts related to the development of a more diverse water workforce. Now, this task force concluded its work in 2020, but it did result in the formation of a permanent board committee, which will continue to lead our efforts in this area. Currently, the committee is working with the consultant, the Silverine Group, to look at how WEF can improve our diversity, equity, and inclusion internally, by providing training and guidance on our current policies, training on things like unconscious bias, and talking about the language that we're using across the organization to make it more inclusive. Externally, we're also looking at developing a strategic plan for evaluation and development of future programs and content, creating strategic partnerships with outside organizations, and creating some sector-wide training materials to create a more inclusive culture in the water industry as a whole. So looking both inside WEF, what can we do within our committees, within our House of Delegates, within our member associations to increase that diversity, but also reaching beyond just the boundaries of WEF and trying to impact this water sector as a whole. I could talk about this for a long time, but I'm hoping you were all able to attend the Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion Forum that was held as part of this conference on January 28th. This tremendous presentation and roundtable discussion included members from our Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion Committee, and they delved deeply into these issues and what actions we can take to become a more diverse and inclusive industry. If you didn't get a chance to see this, I encourage you to go back and watch it to see what you might be able to implement at your member association or at your place of employment as well. Likewise, the Women in Water Forum was held on February 2nd, and this offered an insightful panel discussion on the role of women in the water industry and the challenges they continue to face in our workforce. I think this was an especially impactful event considering we're celebrating the 100th anniversary of the 19th Amendment. And I'd just like to applaud NEWEA for including these important discussions as part of this year's conference. And I really look forward to continuing these discussions into the future. Finally, I'd be remiss if I didn't mention WEFTEC. WEFTEC 2021 will be in Chicago from October 16th through 20th. At this time, we're planning on an in-person event with coinciding digital component that will provide some overlapping content and interactive elements. We're trying to take the best parts of in-person WEFTEC as well as some of the lessons we learned from WEFTEC Connect this year to really broaden the reach of WEFTEC and make it apply to a much wider audience. Now, as you all know, the COVID-19 situation is still rapidly evolving, but we are optimistic that by this fall, we'll finally be let out of our houses and be able to come together again in person. So I hope to see everyone there. And with that, I'd just like to say thank you again for your time this morning and all the work that you do to protect our public health and water environment. Now go out and act, advocate, and be the change. Thank you.